talk about what self-compassion is, but first, and again, because of the sharing, I think this works so well, we're going to talk about what it's not. So we'll go through these fairly quickly. We're going to dive into each of these. It's also not a lot of other things, but these are like kind of the three ones that stood out to me. And also I am sort of purposefully being a terrible linguist by conflating self-compassion and self-love just a little bit. We are going to talk about a self-compassion practice, which is specific to that, but I want us to think about self-love as well, and we will continue to talk about that. Yeah. So, okay, I have thoughts on that, Mandy, too, because I feel the same way. Some of it's religious, I think, for me. But okay, so what is not? Self-esteem. Let's start with that. So self-esteem is just how you perceive yourself. It's your attitude towards yourself. It can be positive, it can be negative. And a positive, like what we would consider like high self-esteem, does not necessarily correlate, studies have shown, to adaptive behavior, meaning like your ability to cope with your life. So it's just kind of here. It's how you feel about yourself. So I'm not going to pause for journaling time, but I would invite you, like if you're watching this on the replay, you could pause, maybe just jot down if you want to do this later, or if you can do it real quick. I would invite you to think about what is your kind of self-assessment. How do you esteem yourself? Do you think well of yourself? Do you think poorly of yourself? And where do you find that in your body? It's, like if it's negative, it's probably going to be more like, kind of the things that Anya was talking about, hunch, you're tightening and stuff like that. If it's positive, it might be more open. I don't know. But that would be something I invite you to do. Again, not necessarily right now, but if you're able to be quick, you can. But we're going to keep moving because we got stuff to talk about. Okay. What it is also not is self-aggrandizement. Okay. Because, and I'm so, so grateful for y'all sharing, because I was like, maybe I'm the only one who thinks this. But when I've always heard these terms, self-love, self-compassion, I just kind of roll my eyes and I'm like, you're talking about narcissism. Like you're going to become a narcissist. Like all this self-talk, you're going to be selfish. And so I've kind of always carried that fear of becoming a narcissist, and also like a fear of letting myself off the hook. Anya, you said something like that, like excusing behavior or something like that. Like, right? Do you want to say more?
Justifying like behavior that like you could do, like I could totally do this hard thing, but because self-compassion is so in, I can be like, no, I don't, no, I've already worked really hard today, I can just take it easy, when it's like to my best like benefit and for the benefit of others. If I just overcome this hard thing and practice some discipline, and then I can, it's weird. It's not earning rest. I know the difference now. It's
Yeah.
just doing a hard thing and not justifying, excuse the excuses that I make for myself.
Yes. And I think like this self-aggrandizement piece is like, it's almost this fear that if I have too much compassion on myself, I'm just going to start thinking that I'm doing fine in everything I do. Nothing I do is like, I don't need to be disciplined. I don't need to push forward. I don't need to do anything else because I'm fine. Because I think we conflate compassion with like, well, the next one we'll talk about this, but we kind of just conflate with, it's like, oh, you poor baby. Oh, you're fine. You poor little thing. And it's like the idea of gentle parenting. People kind of think that means that you just are permissive and you let your kid do anything. And I think there's a fear that we're going to do that with ourselves and just be permissive.
Yeah, like never letting me go outside my own comfort zone, like literally limiting my own growth by saying like, no, but that's hard. Oh, I know that that's hard. Like it, like it
Yeah.
has a little voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And for me, this might not be universal, but it showed this self-aggrandizement sort of conflation shows up as self-righteousness for me, like where it's like it's that thing whenever if I'm criticizing someone else and there's this like little part of me that's kind of happy to do that. I think that's this self-aggrandizement piece. And it's, again, like it can be, you can be afraid that that's going to just get excused with like self-compassion and self-love. And it's that idea that like you're exceptionally okay, like everything you're doing is just fine. And it's actually disconnecting you from yourself and from the reality of your experience. Because there are things that maybe you're not good at. Maybe there's things that you do need more discipline. There's things, like you're not grounded in the reality of your actual experience. And it's also dismissive. It's dismissive of those negative feelings and those negative emotions. So it is not self-compassion. That is what it is not. So I'd also invite you to consider where you might feel this in your body. Like I said, if for me, it kind of shows up as self-righteousness. I sort of know where that is in my body. When I'm happy to think about something I'm doing better than someone else or whatever, or just focusing on them as a way of avoiding my own stuff. So that also is going to show up in your body. So you are invited to ponder that at some point. Okay, what it is also not, and I think the thing that it gets the most confused with is self-pity. So I think another fear I have, or I have had when thinking of self-compassion and self-love, is falling into a victim mentality, right? I don't want to wallow in the things that hurt me. But pity, that's pity. So self-pity is the idea that I am exceptionally not okay, that things are particularly bad for me in ways that they are not bad for other people. That can look like it can look like I suck more than everyone else. So it can be very self-deprecating, or it can be like things are just less fair for me. It can be kind of, you can project it out here, or you can sort of project it inside. But it's just that idea that like, just life is exceptionally hard for you, whose ever fault it is. It comes along with the idea that nobody gets you, nobody cares about you, those kinds of things. They don't get it. They don't see. And I don't think that it's like a coincidence that pity has the word pit in it, because that's what I imagine. Like it is disempowering. It's isolating. The basic message of self-pity or pity for other people is it sucks to be you. Like that's not empowering. That's not connecting. That is like, I don't know if, I'm sure many of you are like familiar with Brene Brown and her whole idea of like the pit and someone standing over it and just looking down in it and pointing at it and being like, wow, it looks dark down there. Like that's what that is. That's pity. That is not compassion. It's not self-compassion. It's not compassion for other people. And as a note, since we are talking about self-compassion, this is extremely human. Like I'm sure there are neuroscientific reasons why we do this. So there's no shame for anyone who has ever felt this way, who tends to fall into this pattern of thinking, feeling sorry for ourselves. Like it is human and there is an evolutionary purpose for it. I'm sure I could figure it out, but we're not going to keep going there because we're tugging. We have another direction that we're going in. But I'm just saying, you don't need to feel any shame for it. You should have compassion on yourself for feeling that, in fact. But it is isolating and it cuts you off from other people. So again, I would invite you to consider where you feel pity in your body, where you feel pity when you're pitying someone else, where you feel it when you're feeling it for yourself, when you feel sorry for yourself. Where do you find that in your body? So now we'll talk about what self-compassion is, now that we've talked about what it's not. And look at that cute little puppy. It's so cute. It's taking care of itself because it's so cute and it knows it. So self-compassion, right? I know. Self-compassion is this idea that I'm a human having a human experience, which that sounds like a cliche, and it is, but it's also really helpful because when you are having a human experience, it can feel isolating. You can feel like it draws you into that pit because it's freaking hard. And like being human is freaking hard. And so we sometimes like it can be tempting to believe that little voice in our head that says like, I am never going to get out of this and no one has ever experienced this before. And so when we remind ourselves like it's a human experience, it connects us not only to reality, to the reality of our situation, to the negative things that we're experiencing in this moment, but also to other people. It connects us to the universals. And it's empowering because of that, because it's like, I think as writers, we should be particularly like, this should be something that is easier for us to get than for other people, because all we do all day long is we come up with particulars to explain or name universals, right? That's why we read stories. That's why we write stories, because we know deep down in our bones, like I'm getting chills just thinking about it. We are humans and we're connected because of that. And the human experience is varied and wide and messy and beautiful and terrible and horrific and stunning and all of these things. And as writers, we at some point in our lives got completely enamored with the idea that we could pluck words out of the sky and put them on a page and it could connect to other people and they would understand those universals a little bit better because we shared some particulars. Like, right? That is us as writers. That's what we do. And so this whole idea of like compassion, like this should be our bag. This is our thing. And if we can do that for humanity outside of ourselves by writing it on a page and sharing it and knowing that other people are going to be able to connect with it, we can do that for ourselves. We can do that inside of ourselves. And that's what we're going to practice tonight.